Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala rasulil kareem. This is the introduction to what will inshaAllah be a kind of an ongoing series that I am calling an atheist journey to Islam. The Quran, Allah tells us in Surah Al-Imran, ayah 19, Inna Dina Indallahi al-Islam, which roughly translated is indeed the religion with Allah is Islam. So that's kind of the premise, the whole purpose of the talk long term. I have a few personal goals with this. First is to tell my story, my personal story of my journey to Islam, both for my own benefit, inshallah. We are supposed to reflect and learn the lessons that Allah has sent to us, and also for anyone else who might benefit from it, inshallah. Second would be to introduce Islam to other people coming from a similar background as an atheist, perhaps an agnostic, and just anyone out there who is not currently a Muslim but who might gain from this. And finally, to introduce atheists to the Ummah. I know I found early on that there were a lot of misconceptions, a lot of specific prejudice in Da'wah, particularly when it comes to the topic of atheists, and that the Da'wah can be kind of patronizing and presumptive and therefore ineffective. So I felt like if you want something done right, sometimes you have to do it yourself. So inshallah, we can all benefit from this. Now, my journey to Islam came in stages. It was not just kind of an aha moment. It wasn't as long as some, but I kind of think of it as stage one, which is what we'll be beginning to address tonight, was sort of the superficial stage, where I initially kind of opened my mind and my heart a bit to Islam, more as a culture at the time. To introduce myself more properly, my name is Kathryn. I am the coordinator and the public relations director for the Islamic Outreach Center of Colorado. Obviously, we are currently home doing these videos. Our center is locked for now. Inshallah, it won't be for too long. But the benefit of that is we've been able to find a little more time to start building our online presence for people to access us virtually. Inshallah, services continue. I am originally from Texas. My upbringing was, my mother is a Catholic, still considers herself a Catholic. My dad, I don't recall ever discussing anything in the way of religion with before he died when I was in my early 20s. I considered myself an atheist from before I knew that there was a word for it. Finding the label felt very good at the time, but I was kind of a precocious, maybe obnoxious, very questioning child. I really wanted everything in the world, and I still do, wanted everything in the world to make sense, to have a reason, to have a purpose, to have logic behind it. And I was continuously disappointed with the religions I was exposed to in that regard. I spent a lot of time in atheist and agnostic circles, in person and on MySpace. Maybe I'm dating myself there. As well as feminist, at the time, liberal feminist circles. And I kind of thought by, high school, later high school, early 20s, that I had found, my people, people of the same mind. And we could kind of see eye to eye on most everything. And I ran into kind of a glaring blind spot in this community that kind of surprised me when the conversation of hijab arose one day. I don't remember how it came up. We typically harassed Christians in the atheist group and the feminist group as well, just because it was, you know, that's kind of the norm. If you're a white English-speaking North American, you're more likely to be interacting with a Christian than any other demographic, or at least it has been. We don't know how long it will stay that way. So when the topic of hijab came up, just kind of the vitriol that I saw from these people that I thought I was kind of on the same level with really shocked me. I had thought of us, kind of this community, as very open-minded, very progressive, generally pretty accepting of other viewpoints, as long as they weren't damaging to anyone. And so I just couldn't get my head around why this, you know, this group of women who decided to put on more clothes was so bothersome. So I, you know, in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ahzab, verse 59, Allah says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ذلك أدنى أن يعرفن فلا يؤذين, which roughly translates that for women to cover themselves, for them to draw the covering over themselves will be better for them, so that they will be known and not be troubled. So in the Quranic sense, the mode of dress is a means of identification. It's a badge. It's also a shield in a way, in that it signifies you as a person, as a woman of faith, as someone who has, you know, these strong beliefs, and it marks you out in society. At the time, my understanding was obviously much more superficial. I saw this as, you know, this is, I was bothered by the liberal feminist perspective that freedom equals, what it really comes down to, full and complete erasure of a woman as anything different from a man, in a way. You're not supposed to have, you know, any qualms about being objectified. You're supposed to embrace that and find that an empowering thing. And that bothered me a lot. I felt like, you know, that didn't seem like that was the answer to the problem of sexualization in the culture. You were supposed to kind of, you know, maleness was the standard that it seemed we were all trying to rush towards. And that bothered me on a pretty deep level, this idea that being feminine, being female, wanting to do things that are traditionally seen as feminine was somehow this great flaw that I needed to find and like root out. So hijab appealed to me on both of those fronts. The idea that it allows you to still be a woman and be significantly different from a man, while still protecting that. And not just having it, you know, open for consumption by whoever happens to choose. It's taking your power back in a way. And I was just baffled that all of these so-called feminists didn't get that. They could see stripping naked as taking your power back, but they couldn't see rejecting nakedness in the same sense. And again, I found that very confusing, and it was kind of an eye-opening moment for me, and it helped me to step back from this community a little bit and realize that, you know, maybe these people don't have all the answers either, which was a little depressing, because I thought I had kind of maybe finally stumbled into the community where reason reigned and, you know, we could all live happily ever after, having figured the world out. But the reality is that's not where I was. I was far, far from there. So I did some more reflecting, and I admired hijab greatly. The more I read about it, the more I learned about it, the more I admired it. I admired niqab. And, you know, I went through a period of 6-8 months where I wrestled with myself on how I could start doing this since I wasn't a Muslim. Would it be, you know, culturally insensitive? Would it be the equivalent of blackface? Would it be something that was going to cause more harm to this community than it was going to help me. And so I decided against it, and I kind of put it on the back burner. And that kind of summarizes phase one of my journey. That was, again, the superficial kind of eye-opening, that me and my atheist, feminist, agnostic community didn't have all the answers and the perfection that I had kind of hoped that we did. And I guess it kind of kept my ears and eyes open to the next steps, which are to come in this journey, in this story. So inshallah, subscribe, follow along. This will be maybe a twice weekly series, because it kind of gets pretty philosophical and complicated towards the later stages. But you know, like our channel, subscribe. Also, as I said, we are currently out of the offices, out of the facilities. All of the physical projects are on hold, which is kind of a strain on the organization. We're still babies at this organization. So you can visit our Launch Good campaign if you would like to donate, to just help us with operational costs, with adjusting to the unforeseen expenses of having to try and go online. As you can see, we're recording on a cell phone. We did order a light, but that's about as far as we've gotten. You can also visit our PayPal, paypal.me/Islamic Outreach CC, and give what you can, follow along on the journey, and inshallah we will all gain from it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.